Hello, everyone, and welcome to our adventure with wine, the protocols and everything else that goes on with wine. But I think before we start, it's always interesting to know where everybody is coming from, where they're zooming in from, and certainly their name. So we'll start with that. And I think one of the easy ways that I have to do it, if you look down at the bottom, you see a little box that says reactions. Do you see that? And then it'll say raise hand if you have that option. So if everybody raises their hand, everybody do it. Raises their hand. And then when you may have, once you've made your introduction, drop your hand. Like I am Gloria Petersen, and I'm going to be leading the charge today. Unfortunately, something came up unexpected, and I have to leave 15 minutes early. So I contacted my author colleague, Zach, and he's going to finish it with some great stories at the end. So he'll take over the last 15 minutes. So when we start the introductions, like right now, I just did mine, and in the reactions, I will lower my hand that I've already spoke, and then we can tell who hasn't yet. So since I mentioned you, Zach, you start with who you are.
Just had to get out of mute. So I am Zach. I am based in Chicago, and I spent a lot of my life as an expat, and now I essentially coach and train international sales managers. And apparently, I'm going to be telling stories for the last 15 minutes of the program.
You want to stay for that? Okay, and just pop in whoever wants to go next.
I'll go next. Hi, I'm Vic or Vikas. I'm actually new to the Global Chamber of Commerce, but I'm excited to be here. And I thought it was a little too early for wine, but I'm feeling the pressure, so I'm going to get myself a glass of wine right after I stop talking. And I'm based out of San Antonio, Texas. My main business is franchises, and I also do some travel planning on the side. In fact, I will be probably taking a wine cruise in Europe next month sometime. So when I come back from that, I'll have a lot more to talk about wine.
Okay, and I think I'm going to do something differently. Your name is Vic, correct?
Yes.
Okay, Vic, call on somebody, and we'll do it that way. Then we'll get everybody done.
I'll call on Cesar.
Thanks, Vic. Cesar Trabanco here from the Global Chamber HQ. So sorry, Gloria, is there anything in particular I need to present or mention about? I'm having a wine now because I had like 2 calls before this one, and I haven't been able to stop up and go to the kitchen.
Well, where are you zooming in from? That's interesting.
I'm from the world's favorite island. That's what they want to call it now. It's Puerto Rico in the Caribbean.
Okay. So we have Puerto Rico here, and now Cesar, you calling someone?
Let's call him Terry.
Which one?
Oh, Terry Cullen, you.
Oh, that's me.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. I am Terry with Global Chamber Austin in the great state of Texas. And it is good to see everybody once again. Hi, y'all. Y'all.
And then you'll call on someone?
How about the other Terry?
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Bonjour, tout le monde. Yes, we are wine here in Park City, Utah. I'm one of the global advisors here for the Global Chamber in Utah. As you can see from my display, I have books of wine, 16 bottles of wine that I'm making pictures if you all around. Basically, I'm a business developer freelancer for small medium business. My firm is winixet.com. We help people, small medium business, students create startups to create websites. I have also a passion for rural territories. So yes, in rural territories, you want to create a startup, you need a website. So I'm a lot of the time in rural Utah. I'm also an entrepreneur working in various industries, the winixet.com websites, social media, cinema, media, French English translation, fooding, wine, tourism agency, so I'm one of the French speaker. I'm also involved a little bit in diplomacy. It's like so you watching my beautiful flag from Ukraine.
Yeah. And Theory, where are you based?
Ukraine.
Where are you based?
Voilà,
You're in Utah, right?
Voilà. I'm Park City, Utah. Voilà. As
Yeah.
you can see, we're heavily involved with helping Ukraine. Voilà. At a very high level. So Global Chamber is doing some things. Internationals are doing others. We have a very powerful Ukrainian association, which, by the way, does also some wine. Yes, there are some wine in Ukraine. People forget that in the Carpat mountain, the border with Romania, you have some wine over there. Good food.
Okay, Theory, who do you want to call on? We have to move along here. We'll be coming back to you.
Allez, San Antonio, là. Christopher, Harry.
Thank you.
Voilà.
Hey, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Christopher Herring, I'm the Executive Director for Global Chamber San Antonio, and it's just good to represent the great state of Texas. And today, not only am I on, but I'm drinking a Cardinal Red that is made from the San Antonio Winery in Los Angeles, California. So that's a aha, but it's a bottle that I'll share with you today. And thank you. And I'll call on, let's see, who am I going to call on? Who has their hands up? Chippy, it's on you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Christopher, for actually inviting. For those who don't know me, I'm Shilpi Chanda, and I'm basically, I would say that if you are doing everything in your life and still you feel that there is something in your life that is missing, that you don't feel happy, then I'm your friend. I'm the person who can help you with that, or maybe work with that. So basically, I'm a coach who works in self-love and self-care and make people happy. I'm a happy person, and I leave my contact details here. Another thing very interesting thing about me, I'm in this amazing group, but I don't drink wine or any hard drinks, but I'm open to learning, so I'm here. And I would leave early, so I'm so sorry if I don't get a chance to talk again, but I want to say that. And thank you so much. I'm here learning new things. Thank you so much. I'm done.
Okay, who has not gone? We have hands.
I see Daniela. I don't know,
Okay.
how do you pronounce your name?
Yeah.
If I pronounce wrong, just kill me. That's okay.
No, that's exactly right. So it's Danielle. Some people call me Daniela. I'm actually calling in from Connecticut, near New York, and I work at Corpay, and I have a lot of clients in the wine industry, food industry, a lot of different industries. And what I do is I help them buy currency to maybe buy wine abroad, or barrels, or other machinery, or, you know, to bring in anything really, importing. Also, if customers need to pay them in currency, we do that over here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And do you see who else has not spoken yet? Because we can't tell with the hands. I think we just had somebody join us. Osai?
Hi,
Hi, is that how you say your name?
Josiah, yes.
Okay,
How's everyone doing? How you doing, Gloria?
thank you. Please tell us who you are, obviously, and where you're zooming in from.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I am Josiah. I am calling out of Lagos, Nigeria. So just around the corner from many of you, around the small little blue marble of ours. I am a venture capitalist, managing partner, founder and managing partner of Ripple Venture Capital. Ripple VC is an early stage VC firm based in San Francisco with a focus on deep tech around Africa. And of course, I am also a lover of wine. Yum, yum.
Yeah. Welcome and thank you. And I think the other one that just joined us was Ruby. I don't think you've introduced
Hello.
yet. Hi.
Hi, everyone. Delighted to be joining you today. I do love wine as well, and I've never been to any of this event, so I'm very pleased to be here. I'm based in Accra, Ghana, and I'm the executive director for Global Chamber here. And I run a consulting business as well. So anyone interested in my market, please feel free to get in touch. I'll put my details in the chat. Thank you.
Welcome. And another one that just popped up, and I hope I say the name correctly, Arjun. Did I say I see you're connecting to audio.
Yes,
Anyone else?
he's still connecting to audio. So.
Okay. Anyone else that has not made their introduction yet? How about Doug? You're there, right?
Hey, Gloria. Hi, everybody. Doug Brunke. I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona today. I think most of the places I've lived have been fortunately places that even grow wine, certainly all drink wine. So looking forward to having to be educated today by Gloria. Arjun, is Arjun available? Probably not yet. Anybody else would like to introduce themselves?
Yeah, I see one that says fireflies, but it notes Zach.
That's Zach.
Okay, let's do them. Okay, when Arjun is not
Otherwise, we
quite
can get to Arjun when he's available.
we will do that. Because I have to leave a little early and Zach is going to take over, and this is all about protocol. I thought I would open with a few slides that I have prepared. I've sent to Cesar. He's going to show them and just kind of make you aware of some of the protocols that are going on, certainly the ones that are being violated or are not properly followed, but just to kind of create some understanding of wine toasting and protocol. And the first one I'd like to talk about is the bon appetit. When you are getting ready to have a meal, the bon appetit is to begin the meal. There are 3 times during which you can toast, or what are proper to toast. Certainly the beginning, the middle, if it's going to be a very long meal, sometimes it's in the middle, and the fun one is the champagne at the end, the celebration toast at the end. So that's the first toast. The other protocol here is if you are a guest, you would wait and follow the lead of your host. So the host, actually, if you are the host, you should actually pick up your glass first and begin the bon appetit, which is simply to begin the meal. So that's about different points during a meal in which you can toast. On the next one, I'm going to show you a real big display of some tableware, Tablescape. And this is just showing you in a very formal environment, the cascade, the order in which the wine presentation is made on the table. We won't go into all these other things that takes a while to go into, but usually if the last celebration toast is going to be champagne, it'll be in the back here. So it's your water goblet, always that's standard. But then with some courses, when there's pairings, you might have a red wine to go with one course. You might have a white wine to go with a different course. And you might have a sherry to go with an appetizer, for example, or a soup in the beginning. The thing about this is that you need to realize is when you are giving a cascade of wine glasses like this, where there are pairings to go with each course, you don't keep the wine there. That's a big no-no, the big protocol no-no. When you are, let's say, for example, the sherry glass is going to go with the soup. When you're finished with the soup, the sherry glass says goodbye, even if you have not finished it. You do not say, no, leave it, I'm not done. And then when that's gone, then the next course might be a fish course. In this particular case, it's going to be a continental type meal where a fish course typically precedes an entree. But once that course is finished, they come and take that course away. They also take the wine glass away, even if you didn't finish it. So that's kind of the protocol of when there are wine pairings with a very, very elaborate meal. The next slide is going to show, it's just a question, and I'm curious to ask all of you this. Does anyone here know what was the inspiration for the white wine glass?
Hi, how are you, Joanna?
I'm well, thanks.
Okay, this is your white wine glass. Take a look at the shape, and there was actually an inspiration for its shape. Does anyone know what that was? What does a shape remind you of?
A bell?
Well, a bell?
Fish. Fish.
Okay. Okay, we'll go to the next one. So I thought this is just fun to know. It was for the white wine glass, it was the tulip, the shape of the tulip. And and I'm saying this awkwardly, I'm sorry, but the shape of the tulip, and that's a reminder to you as to how to properly hold your glass, because you would never hold a tulip by the bulb, by the flower. You would always hold by the stem. If you click one more time, Cesar, I think there's another part to this slide. The tulip, the wine glass is like a flower springing from the stem. Handling the wine from the stem signifies both refinement and respect. So you will see a lot of people holding wine like it's beer. It's not beer, it's wine. And the hand, and wine experts will tell you that the temperature of the hand should never interface with the temperature of the wine. So it's always held by the stem this way. So that's one. And the next one slide I have to show you is the proper way to toast. Now, when people toast, they tend to, there is a toasting protocol here. First of all, the clinking. People want to go over and they want to clink glasses. But actually, the part of the glass that should do the clinking is the belly. So when you toast, well, belly to belly. And you will get more of a tone. These are real crystals, so you're going to hear a real loud a ding with it, or a tong, a sound with it, the crystal sound with it. But you always toast from the widest part like that. And you don't necessarily have to clink glasses and touch. You can just raise the glass in the toast. That's certainly proper too. So that's another thing that people tend to not know. And the next slide, again, this is showing the belly, just showing the toasting from the belly. And then the next one, and this is where people get really tripped up. And when I conduct a dining etiquette seminar, I can't tell you how tripped up this gets people, and how awkward this particular stage can be. A toast, please remember, a toast celebrates you. And a lot of people mess this one up. So let's say, Terry, for example, because I see you at the top there, that all of us at Global Protocol are going to toast you, okay? So what they'll do is they'll raise their glass and they'll get ready to do the toast. But we're toasting you, Terry. We're celebrating you, which means you do not sip. You don't celebrate you. We celebrate you. That's probably one of the biggest mistakes that is made. And there's more honor to the toast if you raise your glass in acknowledgement that you are the recipient of this toast, and just smile and let everybody celebrate you. Okay, and the next slide. There's another one. These are just a few things that do come up. And then the proper way to hold the stem is the thumb and forefinger down here, as you see in the illustration. And another thing I have fun teaching when I'm teaching this is how not to get lipstick on your glass, because that's considered very tacky. You see the lipstick imprint there? Now, guys, you might want to teach this to your gal friends or wives or whoever, but there's a way to do it. And it's going to sound silly, but I'm going to do it in front of you right now. Oh, backing up for a minute. I was going to also say on the glassware, and we're going to have anyone here who is knowledgeable about glassware, please do share that information. But the original champagne glass was actually this one. And then it went to the flute. And it went to the flute to keep the bubbles to last longer. Now, this particular champagne glass, which was the original one, is used for sorbets for the most part. Now, a lipstick, I'm just going to take and show you by putting a little bit on my lip. And I'll tell you how I learned this. When I was at the protocol school in Washington, D.C., and I attended a reception, I was in awe how all the women with lipstick on were not getting a lip imprint on their glass. And I had a nice big lip print like that one on my glass. And finally I went up to the host and I asked her, and she embarrassed me by saying, "Oh, Gloria, how could you not know how not to get lipstick on your glass?" And I thought, well, I don't, so how do you do it? And this is how they do it. Now, this is going to sound weird, but I want you to take your tongue, it's like a funnel, and you form a funnel with your tongue. I'm going to do it with my real glass here. A funnel with your tongue, and you're actually putting the tongue here and you're drinking through the funnel on your tongue. So your lip does not come in contact with the glass. So you have to try that when you're on your own, is how to not get the lipstick on your glass, unless you're wearing a lipstick that just does not leave imprints. They're hard to find. The other thing I wanted to talk about in my glass, I don't know if you can see it here, but I have berries. One of my favorite ways to drink a red wine, because I keep my red wine at room temperature, and it's still not quite the right temperature because our room temperatures are warmer, like warmer than European temperatures, for example, that I will freeze champagne grapes. And these are tiny little champagne grapes in here. And I'll put a tablespoon of frozen champagne grapes at the bottom of my glass. I love my reds that way. And then it gets the temperature of the wine perfect. And the best part of all is when I'm done with my wine, I get these wine saturated grapes to enjoy. So I think that is pretty much my slides. We can go back to everyone else. And those are my wine tips for you based on the protocol and the way I teach my classes. That's just a little snippet, but I know you have more. So I'd like to hear your stories. I'm going to see if I can do this in the chat box real quick here. Okay, I put some ideas in the chat box. Take a look. And if there's an idea there that you would like to address based on your experiences, please let us know and let's learn from you. That's what this particular wine session is all about, is learning from each other. See one there that anybody can address? I know Zach's going to tell stories at the end, so we'll hold off on his.
Well, Gloria, I just want to say that you taught me a couple of things that I would have never thought about, and I've gone to a number of wine tastings. Number one, my lipstick, or the wear of lipstick, that was a first. And the second was when you're being celebrated, because I think that's a common foul, that when people are celebrating you, you want to drink with them. But I know now to keep it reserved. I won't do that anymore. I will just let them just go in the moment. So Terry, like for instance, Cotton, if you want to celebrate me, we can practice that. Yes, thank you.
Now the deviation would be that if you're celebrating an entire group, like we're celebrating the anniversary of, then everybody sips, because no one person has been singled out. But when one person has been singled out, they're supposed to enjoy being honored. And then everyone can see who's being honored by the same breath. Okay, anyone else want to share a wine experience based on the questions I put in the box, the chat box? How about with the wine glasses? Why are they different shapes? This is a silent group.
Gloria. Hi, Gloria. I have a question.
Sure.
Is there a scientific reason why red wine goes with meat and white wine goes with fish dishes? I mean, when you're having a meal that is with fish.
And today, Ruby, there are so many variations and blends of wines that rule is not as hard and fast as it once was. But to answer your question, I'm going to put it out to the group here. If anyone has the answer, I'm not a sommelier, if I said that correctly, of wine. That's who would know the answer to it. I just know the protocols behind the toasting and just the holding the wine glasses, just the protocol things. But when you get into why they're paired the way they are with certain foods, I was hoping we would have somebody with us today that had a background in
I
pairing.
can take that, Gloria.
Wonderful, thank you.
So typically, it's going to be red wine with meat and white wine with fish and chicken. Because typically red wine has more body and more flavor and is a stronger wine. Now, that isn't always the case, but that's typically the way it works. Very often when you read something, if you read pretty much any review of wine, of a wine, it will say this will go very well with something, right? And the real rule of thumb, the simplest rule is that the more flavor something has standing by itself, the stronger and darker a wine you're going to want to pair it with. Now that again, that isn't complete because there are some very powerfully flavored white wines and stuff like that. But typically, like if you're going to have, say, roast meat, or you're going to have barbecued meat, or you're going to have meat with a fruit sauce or something like that, then you're going to be looking for a very heavy tannic red wine, right? When you're having something like, say, sole, you know, a white fish with a very delicate sauce, you're probably going to have a very light white wine, because otherwise what's going to happen is the flavor of that meat or that fish or that wine just will not work well with the other elements. They might overwhelm it or they might disappear. Does that make sense?
It does, and thanks for educating me.
Yeah, and then just to add to that, you have your sweeter wines, which are your dessert wines. And they usually follow the dessert. Again, there are so many variations of them. I love the sweet wines. Some of the sweet wines are now, and I love it, they come with bubbles. Like, I can't think of the name of one right now, but anyway, they're like bubbly, like a champagne. And oftentimes the champagne is used at the end if it's not.
Moscatos, maybe? Maybe the Moscatos?
Moscato, I have Moscato. Yeah, I have my wine collection. Moscato's good for that. Absolutely, Moscato goes real good. It's because it's a little bit more sweet. Stella Rose. That's the one I'm trying to think of. Stella Rose is another one that's kind of sparkly. Anyone familiar with Stella Rose? Okay, it's sparkling, but it's a little bit sweet. It's a great after dinner drink. I mean, after dinner wine. I love that one for that.
So what's a good wine to pair with the spicy food? Because should it be the red because it's full of flavor and color, or should it be the white to cool down your palate?
I'm told beer.
Actually, that's a great question. It should be, typically it's going to be beer.
Yeah.
Really,
all right, fair enough.
I mean, if you insist on wine with spicy food, then it's one of those things that a sommelier will really struggle with, because what they'll very often do is they'll give you like a light red that's typically served cold or something like that. But honestly, the best thing for spicy food, like Indian food, I mean, Indians are now starting to drink more wine, but honestly, the best thing with Indian food is cold beer, right?
I got it. That's fair.
Right. It really just does pair very, very well. You know, beer pairs very, very well with Indian food. And I've been to some formal meals where they serve wine, but with one of the courses they'll serve some beer because it's the right fit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Yeah, exactly. It's when it comes to pairings, there are wine pairings, there are beer pairings, but there are also coffee pairings for those who don't drink. Shippy, is that how you say your name? Shippy? You can do coffee pairings too. And I've actually seen at one time, I used to see coffee shops actually hold classes on coffee pairings.
The fantastic part is I don't even drink tea or coffee. So what should I say? Like for me, I think the best pairing is just the right kind of food and the right thing that you want to eat. So just go with it.
Probably so.
But yeah, I think for me, I drink coconut water, which is good for health, and I love it. So that's what I drink. And I'm so sorry because I know everyone is talking about wine tasting and wine, you know, which one to pair and all that stuff. I used to be very interested and learn more about it. I'm learning so many new things here. Couple of the tips I know, I wouldn't lie. I know, like, you know, how to hold the wine glass and all, just to toast. There's one question though. Sometimes some people say when you toast, like, you know, all of it's not for any particular reason, but everyone is toasting. And some people say you don't actually keep it on the table until you sip it. Is that the norm? Is it true? Okay.
Yeah, you keep your glass on the table till you're ready to sip it. Mm-hmm.
No, I'm saying, like, the question was like, is it okay to not sip it and put it on the table after you toast?
to, oh, I'm trying to get that in my head. How
So
you said
just
it.
not drink. So I
No,
think she's
if you
saying,
toast, you drink. It's considered pour
Oh,
for
yeah.
to toast and then not drink.
Yeah, I think I can answer it this way. You don't, if there's a toast and you don't drink wine, just use your water goblet. You don't have to have the wine. Just leave the wine there and pick up the water goblet and take a sip from the water. And that's perfectly okay today because of so many people having different restrictions to wine for different reasons.
Mhm,
Could be health
absolutely.
reasons or whatever, but you don't have to toast with wine if everybody else is. You can certainly use your water glass. And this white wine glass is actually the multi-purpose glass because it's also the water glass in a lot of cases. So we don't know what's in there.
That was nice one.
Does anyone have an experience, a funny story or an awkward moment during a wine moment, if you will, that they can share? Because I think that would be fun too.
So I have a pretty funny wine story. I worked for an Israeli multinational for a while, and they had closed a deal with a very large French company. And the CEO flew over to France to close the deal, and they went out to a really nice restaurant, and there were 24 people in the meal, and they were, signing papers and taking pictures and all of that. They brought out the wine, and the French company, because the Israeli CEO was the host, was the guest of honor. He waved to him to taste the wine, and he tasted the wine, and he took a sip of the wine, and he signaled to the sommelier that everything was okay, and the sommelier poured wine for everybody, and then they toasted and drank. And the French CEO spit the wine up. It had turned, and it was bad. And the Israeli guy hadn't caught it. And it became a very, very embarrassing point for a lot of people because it was such a visible issue. It was a funny thing. And then they actually sent everybody in the company who was in sales to a wine tasting course. So it would never happen again.
Good one. Anyone else have a story to tell or to share? Another tip then I will offer you that is if you are going to be going to a restaurant and it's not a restaurant you're necessarily familiar with, whether you're the guest or the host, typically when the sommelier comes over to the table and asks for your wine selection, and maybe you don't feel as proficient in wines as you'd like to be at that moment, and you don't know how to make a recommendation because you're the host and the guest is asking you to make a recommendation. And now if we have an awkward moment we want to get through, the best thing to ask the sommelier is, what is your house wine? There's always a house wine, and the house wine is always a good choice, always. So I always say, well, what is your house wine red, or what is your house wine white, depending upon what's going to be ordered with the meal. And and sometimes the host is asked to make the selection for the entire table. So you can't go wrong when you ask for the house wine for that particular course. And sometimes you'll say, well, if you have a mixture of red meats and fish, you're going to have a mixture of courses, but you want one wine to go with everything. Then just ask your sommelier what wine is friendly to all the courses. Sometimes it's going to be as simple as champagne, because champagne crosses all borders. In some cases, you might bon appetit with the champagne and continue the champagne going all the way through. I don't know if anyone else has anything.
I'll add to that, Gloria, for business meals. Again, I have a great story which taught me a lesson. A friend of mine went out 2 salespeople on a business dinner with 6 people get at the table, 1 sales guy at one end, 1 sales guy at the other end. And one of the guests, one of the customers, ordered a $600 bottle of wine. And this was close to 20 years ago. So that's a lot of money at the time. And so my friend, the sales guy who was closest, he saw what had happened. So he said, okay, this is bad, but what I'll do is I'll order a bunch of $30 or $40 bottles of wine, and it'll balance out a little bit. And as soon as the waiter came with the one bottle of expensive wine, the other sales guy at the other side of the table who hadn't seen what had happened, he said to the waiter, you know what, we're a lot of people, bring 2 more of those right away. So they had to go and explain to the CEO of the company why they had a $3,000 wine bill for dinner in 1999 or something like that. So what I always do, going back to what Gloria said, is if I'm hosting a meal, I always go early. I talk to the sommelier and I say, don't bring out a wine list to anybody but me.
Right.
And I order the wine before dinner. And typically, like Gloria said, I'll ask for a recommendation. I'll ask for a bottle. Sorry?
A restaurant and they chose a wine 3,000. So he's advising anytime you go.
So I'll choose like a white wine and a red wine before dinner, and I'll say, this is the wine we're going to have. And then nobody else sees a menu, and I don't have to worry about people ordering expensive wine.
And that brought to mind a story that I absolutely, an experience that I had that I want to share with everyone, because I don't want you to ever do this. Okay. I want to visualize that you've been invited to a very formal international dinner, and you've got a huge big name speaker at this international dinner. And when you go to that, typically there is a wine bottle in the middle of the table and there's glassware all around. I'm sitting at this round table. This is when I was in Chicago, of a very formal dinner. And please realize that always, when you look at your tablescape, your utensils, you're looking at your knife to the right of the plate, and straight up from the knife should be your water glass. That's usually right at the tip. That's the direction where it goes. That's the placement for it. And then there's a wine glass. So the wine glass is always on the right, always. Hear me emphasizing right? Was a very crowded table, because this table was supposed to host 8 place settings and they squeezed in 10. Now, can you imagine what that looked like? It's almost like your utensils are touching the other person's utensils because it's so tight, because it was a sold out event and they squeezed in even more plates to that table. So everything's very confusing. Well, the person to my right had not arrived yet. He turned out to be the owner of a multi-million-dollar manufacturing company who had not arrived. And the speaker was talking about doing business in Argentina. That was our topic. Okay. And he had not arrived yet. And the wine glasses were out and I knew where mine was. And so I immediately, when I saw how crowded it was and how confusing everything was, I put my hand on the stem of the wine glass until the sommelier came around, or the captain for that area. There's always that captain assigned to a certain area, poured that wine. Then kitty corner from me, and I do it this way because it's so real, kitty corner from me was this woman who picked up the wine glass on her left. Do you know what that did to the table? She picked up the one on her left and had it poured, and everybody picked up the glass on their right, so that when the gentleman came, who was, like I said, the owner of a multi-million-dollar business, his wine glass was not there. He arrived a little late. He was agitated. He sat down. I'm sitting there, and we have a guest of honor at every table from Argentina. All of us had a guest of honor from Argentina at our table. Okay. And I'm having my glass, and I know I've got the right one because I teach this stuff. No, this is my glass. He just happens to be on my right. He comes out and he's sitting there with his legs crossed, and that top leg is going a mile a minute under the table. He's so agitated, and he's glaring at me because he thinks I'm drinking his wine. And he wants to have wine. And anyway, I said, I'm sorry, sir, is there a problem? Because he was glaring at me, and he goes, well, ma'am, you're drinking my wine. And he was very blunt about it. And I said, and I was no way I was going to tell him what I did for a living at that point. That was not going to come out. I said, oh, I'm so sorry. And when something like that happens, you do this. Point to the ceiling as a signal for the captain to come over, because there's a problem at the table. When the captain came over, he saw immediately what had happened. Somebody picked up the wrong wine glass, the one on the left instead of the right, threw off the direction of the whole table. And he said, sir, and he went over to the other side table. He picked up the empty wine glass that was not being used, brought it over to him, set it down, and poured his glass without much more. And then, when he said, the funny part of the story is when I said, no, I'm sorry, I got it confused. I'm so sorry if I'm drinking your wine glass. I guess it's so crowded. I got it confused. Gentleman from Argentina, which was 2 seats over from me, oh no, she's got the right glass. I thought, oh, geez. you know, and you just have to be very, very careful. But that whole scenario, that whole discomfort at the table, that entire moment of awkwardness came from somebody picking up a glass on the left. Don't ever pick up the glass on the left. It throws off the whole table. So I'll share that with you. I don't know if you ever had that experience or not, but know where yours is. Take ownership of it. Josiah, you're kind of quiet there. I know your audio. Do you have anything to add? I'll move on.
No, I'm just enjoying the stories. This is a really interesting one. Holy cow.
Do you have a story?
No, I do not. I can't think of any right now.
Okay, well, go over to Vic. Vic, do you have a story?
Unfortunately, after having a few sips of wine, I don't remember anything. So I don't have a story, sorry.
Or an experience?
Not really, not really. I'm just new into wine drinking. So I'm just, next time when I talk, hopefully I'll have lots of stories.
Okay, you're gathering some stories from this, I hope.
Yeah.
Though I don't drink, sorry, I interrupted. Though I don't drink, but I would like to share some interesting thing about wine drinking. Like my husband is an ardent fan of drinking, like be it wine drinking or be it any other drinks. He loves, and he has some set rules. He wouldn't let it go. Like he's so particular, he wouldn't let you sip the wine until you move it and sniff it. He wouldn't let you drink it. He said, no, 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 you don't drink wine like that. You know, just let the aroma hit you first. He has certain rules, like I told you, right? Once you toast, he wouldn't let me just keep the glass like that. No, 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 you have to drink. Drink anything, but you have to drink, you know, like he's so particular about the rules. So this was new that the wine glass is always on the right, and now I'm never ever picking any glass from the left. So that this one was interesting. I'll always remember this story is gonna stay in my brain. Seriously.
That one's never gone away. I'm going to share one more thing with you, and then I have to leave, and I'm going to pass the baton over to Zach, and he's going to take over. But if you've never been to a wine tasting, I encourage all of you to go. You're going to learn so much. I was a member of a wine club once, and what I did not realize is that you'll see a lot of people when they take their wine. Well, I'll use mine here. You'll observe them. They'll take a sip. They'll swish it around in their mouth for a while, and you'll wonder, what are they doing? But they do swish it, and then they swallow it. And that's because when they take the sip of wine, you have 4 points on the tongue, and those 4 points of the tongue taste it differently. So there's the right side, the left side, the back of the tongue, and the tip. They all have different taste zones or tasters. And sometimes when people do that, they're trying to figure out what part of the tongue they really enjoy that wine the most. Now, I do remember that the tip is the sweet wine. So if I want to see if there's any sweetness to the wine, I let it sit on the tip so I can see if there's any sweetness to it at all. And I would discover it there. But you do have 4 tasting zones on your tongue that you can learn a lot about when you go to a wine tasting. I'm not going to go into all that now because we'd often have the wine, we'd often have to do that. But you'll notice that. And sometimes when people also, they aerate their wine. Now my wine's a little bit full here, more full than it should be because I have my grapes in that took up, that made it go up a little bit more. But a lot of times when they take the wine, a good wine, they won't take a sip right away. They will aerate it and let the air. And Zach can probably talk to that a little bit more, but they will aerate the wine, smell the wine, taste the wine, and that is a protocol too, the proper way to experience a wine at the table. And on that note, I'm going to turn it over to Zach. And I've enjoyed everyone. Thank you so much for your comments and participating, for being here. And I put my website, or I can put my email in there. If you have any questions and you want to ask me later, because they come up later, please do so. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Gloria.
Zach.
Hi, so I'll take over for a minute. Thanks a lot, Gloria. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good luck at the doctor's
I'm going to put my
appointment.
name in here.
So I'll talk a little bit about wine tasting, and not so much, obviously, I'm not going to go much into the science of it or even the pleasure of it. But what we'll always find, we're going to find on a pretty common basis, we're going to find ourselves at dinner having to taste wine in a business situation. And so what you're going to see typically is the waiter will approach you with a bottle. First of all, how do you order a wine? Like I said, I typically go and if I'm hosting a party or dinner at a restaurant, I'll go and take a look at the list. It is really helpful. What I do when I tell people who work with me, the people I coach and so on, if you are going to have people on a regular basis for business meals, establish a relationship at a restaurant and keep going back. Your business meals aren't about your enjoyment or about your doing things, novelty. I go to a trade show in Germany every year. I've been going for 20 some years. I go to the same 3 restaurants for that trade show every year after year. And I set the reservations a year in advance because from my perspective, I want to know that I'm going to have a good experience. I don't want to try something new, right? I want to have control over the situation. So if you have a good relationship with the people at the restaurant, it makes it easier to order wine. I typically take a look. I see if there's a varietal, which is the type of grape, a varietal that I recognize, or a type of wine that I recognize. I'll choose a wine. And again, I like to say, just stick with this bottle of wine. Then I don't have to worry about the price of the wine people are buying. And I'll usually find something about mid-priced or, towards the bottom of the list, but never the cheapest one on the list. That's usually the trick. They say when you're a young person dating and you don't know wine, you always order the second cheapest bottle of wine, but never the first cheapest bottle of wine. So that's typically what I'm aiming for, is in that section of the list. The waiter will come to your table. He'll typically hold out the bottle and show it to you. What he's showing is what the date of manufacture and of course the name on the wine. You just sort of look at it. Sometimes they'll miss up the date. Usually they won't, and usually I very, very seldomly have seen them mess up on the actual wine I wanted to order. But the date can be important because keep in mind, if they give you a wine that's maybe 5 years older than what you ordered, they're going to charge you a lot more money for it. On the other hand, if they give you a wine that's 2 years younger than what you ordered, you're getting an inferior wine and they probably will still charge you for the more expensive wine. So you got to keep an eye on the date. I basically just take a look at it, you nod at the waiter, and then what he's going to do is he's going to open up the wine. He's going to hand you the cork. I never smell the cork because I think that's a little too ostentatious. What you're looking for with the cork is if it smells like vinegar, okay, or mold. Typically, if it smells like vinegar or mold, you know that the wine's gone bad. If you what I usually do is I hold the cork in my hand and I look at it, and that shows that I'm at least taking it seriously. But what the only thing I'm looking for is signs that the cork has fallen apart or there might be some mold on it or something like that. And then I set it down next to my glass. I nod to the sommelier. He's going to pour a couple of tablespoons of wine into my glass. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my right hand on the base of the glass. Okay, I don't have a glass here. Unfortunately, I wasn't prepared for this today, so I didn't bring wine glasses with me. Holding it on the table, I'm going to swish the wine around so that the base is still on the table, but I'm moving the glass in such a way that the wine will spin in the glass. I'm going to hold it up, take a quick sniff with my nose, take a sip, run it around my mouth, and then I'm going to tell the waiter that it's okay, unless it's not. Right now, if you're not a big wine drinker, you're probably not going to know if the wine isn't good, but you're looking for essentially 2 things, mold and vinegar, right? Either it's going to be moldy or it's going to be vinegary. It's not probably going to be both. And as long as it doesn't taste like mold or vinegar, typically the wine is good, or at least good enough that you can accept it and nobody's going to criticize you over accepting it, right? So that's what you typically do. That's a simple way. You know, some people go through a much more elaborate ritual. Some people just don't know what they're doing when the waiter comes and asks them to taste the wine. They look sort of like a deer caught in the headlights. But that's typically what you do. That's what I have to teach you. Any other stories people want to tell? I have a bunch of other funny wine stories, but we also probably all have a life to get back to. So it's your call. Doug, you've been quiet. You want to say something?
Hey, Zach, really great stories. I appreciate it. A lot of my, in fact, most of my career has been in Asia. So quite honestly, very little other than sake, rice wine, usually very little wine. So I don't think I have too much to contribute on etiquette. I do remember though one nightmare that I had once when we had a big client party in Tokyo, and I was the responsible person to pick up the sake. And I was bringing it up the steps to the office, and I swung the bag over, and several of the bottles in the bag all broke. And so we had about half of the wine available. So I don't know if, has anybody ever managed to, like, now what do you do, right? You've got all these important clients, and we as the host can't really drink too much because we're suddenly don't have enough. So probably a little bit of an unusual case. I think most of us are in a restaurant and there's unlimited amount of activity. I love the idea of potentially kind of getting snookered into a very expensive wine bill. And so, Zach, thank you for the tip on, being in control of that where you can be. So I appreciate that tip very much.
Oh, no problem. I'll tell you another thing that happened with the whole idea of being in control of the wine tip. There was a steakhouse in Chicago I used to go to about twice a month, and I knew the sommelier pretty well because I was always taking people there. And one thing that'll happen at restaurants is when they're down to less than 6 bottles of a particular type of wine, usually they'll cut the cost very seriously, right? They'll sell them for a discount. So I was at this place, I was talking to the sommelier, and he said he had this really nice wine and he'd give it to me for a good price. And I typically would spend about $100 a bottle, $125 a bottle for business meals. And he said the list price is a lot higher. You're going to enjoy this. And my clients came in and they had an app on their phone that would tell them the price, the manufacturer's suggested retail price of wine when you took a picture of the label. And I saw them get really, really excited. And apparently it came up that I was serving them $700 wine. And they were very, very appreciative and thankful. They thought that and also typically, when you pay $700 for a bottle of wine in the store, in the restaurant, it might be $1,500 or $2,000. So they were very, very excited about that. I got big brownie points over, having a good relationship with the sommelier and was able to spend a lot less. So most of my wine stories and drinking stories have to do with business. I like wine, but my home wine stories are pretty boring.
How about frozen vodka or
right? Oh Jesus,
Maltai or
the amount of times you sit in around 1 a.m. drinking frozen vodka in Russia and herring. I've done that quite a few times. I was going to say one thing that Gloria didn't mention. In many places, especially Europe, it's considered very important to make eye contact when you clink glasses, right? They say you have 7 years bad luck if you don't. So if you're toasting with somebody, you have to be focused. And when you hold up your glass, you clink glasses and you make eye contact.
That's a good one.
The other thing is with beer, I know we talked about wine. With beer, you're supposed to tap the bottom of the glass. So what you do is you don't, with a wine glass, you might do this. With a beer glass, you do this, right? You're supposed to you're supposed to hold it at the top and tap the bottom. Again, I'm sort of scraping at the bottom of the barrel here. Anybody have any other stories or anything?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
In one word, tell me your personal opinion, one word, of boxed wine.
Not. Although I'll be very frank, I cook with boxed wine. I just don't drink it. But I also, I am not a huge snob, but I'm a pretty huge snob. So I don't like, yeah, if you want, you're opening a can of worms there. I mean, for me, I'm pretty careful about what I drink, right? And I have access to really good wine. You know, when I travel, I'll bring back really good wine from Argentina and Chile and South Africa and Australia and places like that. So I don't drink anything mediocre myself, right? But I do cook with boxed wine.
Okay. I use boxed wine when I am brewing sangria. When I'm
Yeah.
making sangria.
Yeah, that's perfectly acceptable. And I'll drink canned sangria. But if I'm sitting down to dinner and I'm opening a bottle of wine, that bottle of wine has a cork and was bottled by somebody and has probably been sitting in a cool place for 4 or 5 years, right? Personally,
I think that's probably the end of the hour, right?
Yep. All right.
Unless anybody has any additional comments. Cesar, you want to take us home? Are you still there?
I'm here. Yes, I can definitely take you all home. And so thank you very much, Zach. And we appreciate all the information shared by Gloria. And thanks everyone else for joining us today. We have a couple of upcoming events. Tomorrow we have an event, our monthly global virtual League of Virtual League of Extraordinaries opportunity was last week. The League of Extraordinaries is where we meet with other members in a round table. Everyone gets the chance to introduce themselves. And so that's tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern time. And we have, after that, the Globinar leadership with Barry Berman. And so next week we're doing an event on exporters, and we have another one with young global leaders. So I will invite you all to check our calendar and register for some of those events. Other than that, I wish you all a wonderful afternoon and keep enjoying the wine.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks.
Take care, everybody.
Zach.